Assalamualaikum and good day to everyone. My name is Balqis Binti Ridzuan from IMS556 Elective A, and today I will be presenting and introducing you to cloud computing. The digital industry changes almost daily. Technology is growing and changing, and it can be tricky to keep on top of all of the new developments and creations. And while cloud computing isn't necessarily a new development, it has only been in recent years that companies have started to turn to it. Many aspects of everyday life have been altered and transformed by this innovative digital solution. Of course, I am here today to encourage all of you on why we should be implementing and standardizing cloud computing in our organization as well. Let's start with what exactly is cloud computing? Well, to put it very simply, cloud computing is the delivery of computing resources as a service. Moving to the cloud basically means that the resources are owned and managed by a third-party provider instead of the end user. Cloud computing is named as such because the information being accessed is found remotely in a cloud or a virtual space. Companies that provide cloud services enable users to store files and applications on remote servers and then access all the data via the internet. This means the user is not required to be in a specific place to gain access to it, allowing the user to work remotely. Cloud computing basically takes all the heavy lifting involved in crunching and processing data away from the device we carry around or sit and work at. It also moves all of that work to huge computer clusters far away in cyberspace. The internet becomes the cloud, and that's it. Our data, work, and applications are available from any device with which we can connect to the internet anywhere in the world. Moving on, in cloud computing, there is certainly an in-depth explanation that we need to explore without having one in our organization. There are two types of models in cloud computing, which initially is deployment models. Not all clouds are the same, and the different types of cloud will suit different domains and how the cloud service itself is deployed. These different types have been developed to try and suit as many as different singular needs as possible. We may also come across personal clouds and peer-to-peer clouds. These are smaller and more bespoke. Hence, there are three types of deployment models. Firstly is public cloud. Public cloud environments are operated by third-party providers who handle and control all the hardware, software, and the general infrastructure. Clients access services through accounts that can be accessed by just about anyone. They provide computing resources such as servers and storage options using the internet. Public cloud is usually common in smaller businesses. One of the biggest public cloud servers is Microsoft Azure, which owns and manages huge hardware and software infrastructure as users able to access online. Following on is private cloud. Private clouds are reserved for specific clientele, usually one business or organizations. This means that only the client's employees can have access to this cloud system. A private cloud permits us to have much greater control over our computing environment and data, and is commonly implemented in regulated industries like finance. Private clouds are usually physically located in an organization's office building, but sometimes third-party services are also employed. They are much more secure than public clouds. Hybrid cloud. Lastly, sometimes known as multi-clouds, hybrid clouds are basically a combination of private and public clouds. These clouds basically allow us to move information and data between the private and public clouds. This can give our organization much greater flexibility and can optimize our infrastructure. Now, on to the second type of models in cloud computing, which is service models. These services are occasionally known as cloud computing stack, as they are often built on top of one another. Knowing what each one of them is and how they work will give us a clearer sign about which service might be best suited to our needs and requirements. Firstly is Infrastructure as a Service, IaaS. Involves a method for delivering everything from operating systems to servers and storage through IP-based connectivity as a part of an on-demand service. Clients can avoid the need to purchase software or servers and instead procure these resources in an outsourced on-demand service. The simplest example of IaaS, a cloud computing, is ordinary web hosting. This is where you pay a monthly fee or by gigabyte, to have a company host your files from your servers. IaaS is an extremely flexible option as it permits the user to customize the infrastructure of the computing environment, from web hosting to big data analytics. IaaS covers the whole spectrum. Some commonly known IaaS systems include IBM Cloud and Microsoft Azure. Secondly is Software as a Service, or SaaS. SaaS usually uses a complete application on a third-party server or system. Users can access these applications on demand via the internet without having to download or maintain any software. SaaS cloud tech is really popular with businesses and general users as it is usually easy to adopt. It can also be accessible from any device, and there is often a range of paid or free options to choose from. So examples of SaaS applications include any web-based mail services. The different services supplied by Google, such as Google Docs and Google Sheets, are also examples of SaaS. Adobe Creative Cloud Services is another example of SaaS in action. With this kind of model, the user is also only exposed to interface that they choose to interact with. Lastly is Platform as a Service, or I would like to call it PaaS, PaaS. It is considered the most complex of the three layers of cloud-based computing. PaaS shares some similarities with SaaS, the primary difference being that instead of delivering software online, it is actually a platform for creating software that is delivered via the internet. These models include platforms like Salesforce.com and Heroku. Before we get into the main discussion on cloud computing, I will talk about why do we need cloud computing. Thus, in tandem with the world's prioritization of digital solutions to traverse today's fragile, highly challenging environment, Malaysia also accelerated digitalization to drive a path to solid recovery and growth. Especially in our current situation with COVID-19 strikes upon the entire world and still affecting our daily lives to this day, working from home is one of the new norms for us. Cloud computing is behind many of today's success stories. Thanks to the cloud, people can collaborate with co-workers, communicate with clients, and develop products as if they were working and meeting in an office. Malaysia's public cloud market alone, which amounts to 3.63% of the total IT spending in the country, has already reached over USD 643.4 million, according to the research site TwinBit. This makes Malaysia the second biggest cloud market in ASEAN after Singapore. COVID-19 has also impelled other sectors in Malaysia, such as medium enterprises and micro businesses, to dial up digital usage to maintain operations in a highly changeable market and lockdown lifestyle. Even though we are already in a post-COVID, cloud computing is still and will continue to be applied and adapted in every organization. Why? Now, let's move on to our first main discussion for today, which is the benefits of cloud computing. Truly speaking, cloud computing brings out numerous of benefits. However, I will be generalizing it to the common ones only. The first benefit of cloud computing, it is definitely cost savings. If you feel quite uneasy about the prices that will come up with making to switch to cloud computing, you are not alone, because 20% of organizations are concerned about the initial cost of implementing a cloud-based server. Regardless of all of the concern, it is ensured that once we are on the cloud, easy access to our company's data will save time and money in the project startups. And for those who are worried that they will end up buying for features that they neither need nor want, most cloud computing services are pay as you go. This means that if we don't take advantage of what the cloud has to offer, then at least we won't have to be dropping money on it. The pay-as-you-go system also applies to the data storage space needed to service your stakeholders and clients, which means that you will get exactly as much space as you need and not be charged for any space that you don't. Taken together, these factors result in lower costs and higher returns. Not to mention, many small and medium-sized businesses with limited budgets are recognizing the benefits of cloud computing. And the second benefit is collaboration efficiency. Cloud computing can also enable great efficiency in the work processes of various organizations. Cloud technology allows collaboration on a much larger scale among employees within an organization. It allows multiple users from different departments to access the required information. With cloud technology, businesses can overcome geographic restrictions and set up a multi-region infrastructure that can be accessed from anywhere. This drives better collaboration efficiency among overseas teams and contributes to business growth. When businesses combine cloud technology with manage their services, they can share information efficiently, prevent a lot of human errors, and speed up the decision-making processes. This helps them boost productivity by focusing on core tasks that matters. Furthermore is disaster recovery. The cloud has dramatically changed how businesses store and retrieve data. This especially comes in handy when businesses need to recover quickly following an unforeseen disaster. No matter how in control our organization may it comes to its own processes, there will always be things that are completely out of our control. And in today's market, even a small amount of unproductive downtime can have a resoundingly negative effect. Hence, cloud-based services provide quick data recovery for all kinds of emergency scenarios from natural disasters to power outages, while 20% of cloud users claim disaster recovery in 4 hours or less, and only 9% of non-cloud users could claim the same. In a recent survey, 43% of IT executives said that they plan to invest in or improve cloud-based disaster recovery solutions. Scalable and flexible. Many businesses in their growth phase have leveraged the cloud to manage their bandwidth requirements. Cloud services can scale up or down very easily based on user requirements very easily. If you use only on-premises infrastructure, we need to invest heavily in physical servers, networking equipment, and software licenses to scale up our growing businesses. Cloud services are also exceptionally flexible. They don't tie down our people to one particular location. In any internet-enabled device, including laptops or smartphones, can be used to access and share critical documents for strategic business decision-making. Businesses need this level of flexibility to grow in a crowded market. Eventually, it is environmentally friendly. Given the current state of the environment, it is no longer enough for organizations to place a recycling bin in a break room and claims that they are doing their part to help the planet. Hosting on the cloud is more environmentally friendly and results in less of a carbon footprint. Using a pay-per-use virtual environment for data storage and running web application means less energy consumption and carbon emissions in the workplace. Cloud computing also reduces physical hardware needs, which means less IT equipment is required in the office. Finally, cloud infrastructures support environmentally proactivity, powering virtual services rather than physical products and hardware, cutting down on paper waste, improving energy efficiency, given that it allows employees access from anywhere with an internet connection, reducing computer-related emissions. In short, the advantages of the clouds that I have mentioned previously have been clear for all of us to see during the COVID-19 pandemic. Businesses that were on the cloud were able to adapt to the new remote working norms much quicker and more efficiently compared to their non-cloud competitors in the same industry. On the other hand, we have discovered a number of benefits of cloud computing. Regardless, there are still a few risks that needed to be emphasized. For the first risk is safety of credentials. If an attacker obtains access to a user's cloud credentials, the attacker can use the cloud service providers known as CSP services to provision additional resources as well as to target the organization's assets. The attacker might employ cloud computing resources to target administrative users, other organizations utilizing the same CSP, or the CSP's administrators. An attacker who obtains a CSP administrator's cloud credentials may be able to access the agency's systems and data using those credentials. Second is lack of control. Unfortunately, when we use a cloud service provider, the vendor is in control. We have no guarantee that the features we use today will be provided for the same price tomorrow. The vendor can double its price, and if our clients are depending on that service, then we might be forced to pay. Also, who controls access to our data in the cloud service? What happens if we are not able to make payment? Without us realizing, it is our data is held hostage by the vendor. We cannot access the service and export our data until we pay up. Next is non-compliance with regulations and laws. For industries that regulate data security such as healthcare, banking, government, and anyone that accepts credit cards, many data security regulations are intended to protect a specific type of data. For example, HIPAA requires healthcare providers to protect patient data. PCI DSS requires anyone who accepts credit cards to protect cardholder data. So, if a company outsources the processing or storage of data that is required to protect, then it is relying on a cloud service provider to maintain its compliance. If the company does not have an adequate legal protection, then it may be liable when there is a data breach at the cloud service that exposes the company's data. In other words, unless we are protected in writing, that a cloud service provider might not be liable for a breach of our data on its systems. So if we are transferring the responsibility of protecting the data to a third party, but we are still liable if that party fails to live up to the task. Increased complexity strains IT staff. Migrating to the cloud can introduce complexity to IT operations. Managing, integrating, and operating in the cloud may require that the agency's existing IT staff learn a new model. IT staff must have the capacity and skill level to manage, integrate, and maintain the migration of the assets and data to the cloud in addition to their current responsibilities for on-premises IT. In addition, key management and encryption service become more complex in the cloud. And lastly is loss of data. Data leakage is a growing and non-common concern for organizations, with over 60% citing it as their biggest cloud security concern. As I have mentioned before, cloud computing requires organizations to give up most or some of their control to the CSP. This can mean that the security of our organization's critical data may fall into the hands of someone outside of our IT department. If the cloud service provider experiences a breach or attack, our organization will not only lose its data and intellectual property, but will also be held responsible for any resulting damages. Now, to recapitulate, the cloud has emerged as one of the biggest drivers of digital transformation, including in our country, because of its cost savings, collaboration efficiency, great disaster recovery, being scalable and flexible, and lastly, environment friendly. Cloud computing has enabled the development and adoption of new disruptive technologies that have affected profound changes in the processes, competencies, and very business models of companies. However, such transformations don't come without their share of risks. Nonetheless, these risks can be mitigated to a great extent with a little forethought, and planning. You must understand that cloud projects and cloud computing is very complex, and it might take time to develop the necessary skill sets for all the functionalities involved. Thereby, with careful evaluations and strategy and continuous improvement in cloud adoption efforts, we can successfully become a cloud-first organization. In today's world, by not moving to the cloud, we run the risk of falling behind our competition and losing our competitive edge. With a strong cloud strategy, we can create a sustainable roadmap for growth and future-proof businesses. Hence, that is all from me. Hope you will at least receive a little bit of amount of what cloud computing is in general and are interested to adopt one in the organization. Thank you and Assalamualaikum.